So something really strange is happening with gold. I mean, it is on an absolute tear, hitting all-time highs what feels like every other week. But here's the thing. This isn't your normal market rally. This is a full-blown mystery, and it's being driven by forces that have even the top experts in the world just scratching their heads. So what on earth is actually going on?
Okay, let's just dive right in and look at the numbers because they really tell the story. For pretty much the last 40 years, gold has been, a slow and steady kind of asset. Averaged about 6.5% a year. Respectable, right? But kind of boring. But the last 5 years? Whoa. It's been averaging nearly 20% a year. That is a massive, fundamental change in character. I absolutely love this quote because it just perfectly captures the vibe of this rally. It's not calm, it's not predictable, it's aggressive, it's chaotic, and yeah, it's a little unhinged. This is definitely not your grandfather's gold. This is something else entirely.
But you know the wildest part of this whole thing? Nobody agrees on why it's happening. Normally, when there's a huge market move, you get a couple of clear theories that most people land on. But with this, everyone has a different idea, and no one seems to have the real answer. It just makes the mystery that much deeper.
So, let's start with the most obvious suspect, the one everyone points to first, inflation. I mean, it's gotta be about inflation, right? Let's see if that theory actually holds water.
And on the surface, it makes total sense. We've all been feeling it, right? Prices for groceries, for gas, for rent, everything's up. So it seems perfectly logical that gold, the classic hedge against inflation, would be soaring. But when you actually look at the timeline, well, the story just completely falls apart. See, if this was really just about inflation, gold should have gone to the moon back in 2021. That's when inflation was at its absolute craziest peak. But what did gold do? Nothing. It barely moved. It was only much, much later, as inflation actually started to cool off, that the price of gold decided to, launch into orbit. So look, is inflation a part of the story? For sure. But it is not the main driver. It's not the real answer. There is something much bigger, and honestly a lot more interesting, happening just beneath the surface. So if it's not the usual story, then who is buying all of this gold? Well, when you follow the money trail, you find the biggest players on the entire global stage making some very quiet and very strategic moves. Get this, for 3 years straight, the world's central banks, we're talking the institutions that manage entire national economies, have been buying gold at a staggering rate. They've been snapping up over 1,000 tons every single year. And just to put that number in perspective for you, this isn't just a little uptick. They're buying at more than double their average pace from the decade before. This is a massive, deliberate, large-scale shift in strategy.
And what's even crazier, the trend isn't slowing down. It's actually accelerating. So this is no short-term fad. This is what institutional-level anxiety looks like in real time, and it signals a huge change in how countries are thinking about the future.
So why? Why this record-breaking buying binge? Well, it really boils down to one simple idea. A quiet, slow-moving loss of faith in the very bedrock of the global financial system, the US dollar. In this chart, wow, it tells the whole story. 20 years ago, the US dollar made up about 70% of all the reserves held by central banks around the world. Today, that number has dropped all the way down to 58%. Now that 12-point drop represents trillions of dollars being slowly moved somewhere else.
But let's be super clear here. This is not a panic. They are not dumping the dollar. That would cause a global meltdown. No, what they're doing is diversifying away. It's a much sneakier, much more strategic play. It's like they're trying to tiptoe out of a room without waking anybody up.
And that's exactly what gold has become for these huge institutions. It's not their main asset, no way, but it's their insurance policy. It's their monetary prenup. It's the backup plan for a future they are clearly getting more and more nervous about.
So what are they actually nervous about? Well, it comes down to a few really big things. They're looking at the ballooning U.S. debt levels, they're worried about inflation being a long-term problem, and frankly, they're worried about being way too dependent on one single country's financial system. Gold is their hedge against all of it.
Okay, and this brings us to the absolute weirdest part of this whole story. The actions of these central banks are creating a massive paradox in the market. We're getting two completely opposite signals at the exact same time.
I mean, this is just not how markets are supposed to work. On the one hand, you have all the risk-on assets, right? The stock market is near all-time highs, AI stocks are soaring, it's party time. But at the very same time, the ultimate risk-off safety asset, gold, is also hitting all-time highs. It's like the market is pricing in incredible optimism and deep-seated fear simultaneously.
And that tells you everything you need to know. The big players, the smart money, they aren't reacting to a crisis that's already here. They are strategically positioning themselves for a future they don't fully trust. They're hedging their bets before the cards are even dealt.
And this is why gold's bizarre rally matters so much. It's not about a shiny metal. It's about who is buying it and why they're buying it. The smartest money in the world is quietly getting ready for something, and it leaves all of us with one huge critical question. What exactly do they see coming?